guys who love to talk fantasy baseball.
3-2.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
Here are your improbable hosts, Dean Millard and Jordan Blundell.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Get in the game where you own the game.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 6 of Full Count Fantasy Baseball, presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, broadcast on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. My name is Dean Millard, flying solo again today as Jordan Blundell, my usual co-host. He's on the practice diamond right now, and I'm looking outside. It's not very nice at all. The Edmonton Prospects, right there, that jersey over my left shoulder, they have a season to start tomorrow, so he's busy getting the troops ready for that, and he will join us again next week. Their home debut is a week from yesterday, on Wednesday. So looking forward to that. We're going to tell you all about Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports and UFSN as we go, but we do like to start things off with a question. Usually it's for Jordan, but I will ask you, the listener, on this episode today.
This is a serious message. Peace and love. Peace and love.
So this very serious question is, which of your fantasy players are you hoping gets traded? There is a lot of guys out there. There are a lot of guys out there that you just are like, man, if only this guy could get some run support. At times, I think you could say that about Jacob Degrom in his career, certainly when he was winning the Cy Young with that record. But the Mets are actually playing pretty good baseball right now. We'll have more on Degrom in a second. But there are a lot of guys out there that you're like, if only this guy could have a little bit of run support. Now, you could say that about a lot of pitchers. Or maybe you're saying, like, if only this guy could get traded so he can get out of the logjam at shortstop or, wherever, what position. So let me know what you think. Here's just a quick look at the early games today in Major League Baseball. Just the one early game, and it doesn't get underway for in just over an hour. It's Baltimore and the Cleveland Indians. And there might be guys on these teams. Well, certainly on Baltimore, there's going to be, if you have anybody on Baltimore, you're hoping they get traded. Cleveland, still only 4.5 games back of the White Sox going into action today. But, you're looking at teams. Baltimore is the reason I thought of this question. It's just because they are in action today. You're looking at the Minnesota Twins. They're already 60. Even Detroit is, 14 games back, 10.5 back of a wild card. The Texas Rangers, I have two closers that I would love to get traded. One is on the Baltimore Orioles, and it's Valdez. I would love for him to get traded, but I'm actually probably going to be dropping him because I have to make a couple of changes to my lineup. I'll tell you about a couple of them as we go. But even Yimi Garcia with the Marlins, he's a young player, young closer. I'm not sure how much of an opportunity he's going to get elsewhere, but he's getting an opportunity in Miami. He's 30 years old. He's not that young at all. So this is a guy that I would like to get traded. And then I can actually, get some value during the season out of this guy if he goes somewhere with getting more of an opportunity. Now, he might go somewhere and just be the setup guy. Thankfully, we have holds, so that would still help me. So that's the question today. I'll tell you in just a second how you can get a hold of me. But which of your fantasy players are you hoping gets traded? That is indeed our question of the day. You might say. Okay, I want to tell you that our show, and we thank them very much, is presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. It's the most realistic, highest stakes fantasy platform out there. Whatever sport we build mimics everything almost about the league it's based on. Right now, hockey is in play. As the Stanley Cup playoffs continue, so do the Klein Cup. And we have a huge prize pool, $31,000 this year, starts at $10K for each of the next years, and then you factor in our entry fee is $1,000. Our entry fee next year is almost $40,000, and it's a progressive prize pool. It builds with every transaction. So we're looking at 6- and 7-figure prize pool here in the next little while, folks, and that's just hockey right now. Baseball is on its way. The Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball is going to be the next best thing to owning an actual Major League Baseball team. And you'll also get the chance to own player NFTs when Major League Baseball players start signing on to the platform. It is just going to be amazing. It's a way for you to participate in high-stakes fantasy. It's a way for the actual player to get paid for his fantasy and his NFT sales, as they aren't just fantasy players. And hockey, baseball, we've got American football, we've got basketball, we've got golf. We've got so much going on. It is going to explode. And we've got some Hall of Famers that have signed up to the platform in some really cool sports. Check it out, www.uffsports.com is where you can find all of that information. Here's what we have on the show tonight. This is the kind of the format and the lineup that we're going with. I'll get to some headlines in Major League Baseball and fantasy baseball in just a second. Jordan did send in his best bullpens, so we'll find out who he thinks is working really well in the relief role. Baseball Thunderdome, we're going back to 1968 for this one. I think you'll like it. That's where we pit two guys. You got to pick one who you would take in fantasy. Waiver wire wins is pretty self-explanatory, who we're picking up from the waiver wire. Top three in the division. Jordan will take a look at a specific division. It's the AL East, or the NL East rather, today, and dual position guys. And that's something that is, you don't win without dual position guys. Prospect Peak is where we'll take a look at the future, and Rule Your League is where we will tell you just how you can make your league better, or some simple fantasy rules to live by. And here is how you can get a hold of us.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
Yeah, and today I am the only one here. I'm not even joined remotely. So here's how you can get a hold of us, though. At Duck Millard on Twitter, at Jordan Blundell 4. You can email us, fullcountfantasybaseball@gmail.com. And if you're interested in getting your show on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, it's UFSN@uffsports.com. A couple of websites for you, fullcountfantasybaseball.ca. And also, you can reach me, you can find more information about the platform at www.uffsports.com. And by the way, you can hit me up on Twitter right now during the show if you do have a question. And we can certainly get you chiming in and chatting with us about different things. Here's what we're going with as far as headlines today. Another early exit for DeGoat, and that is so concerning. Jacob Degrom left last night's game against the Cubs after 3 perfect innings with shoulder soreness. This after he left a previous start with elbow concerns. He was pretty, I'm not saying emotional, but frustrated after saying, I don't want to keep doing this. I want to be out there for, as long as I can, helping my team win. I don't want to be coming out of these games, but they certainly... They said they did get good news, so it doesn't look like an IL stint is going to be necessary. But he was unhittable in his 3 innings last night. 8 Ks, 51 pitches, 3 perfect innings. It is simply ridiculous what he is doing. He has driven in more runs than he's given up. That is incredible. I think he has 8 RBIs. A .56 ERA, a .53 whip. He gives you a head start almost every week, except this week when his start was shortened. And only twice in 10 starts has he gone less than 6 innings before leaving early last night with an injury concern. You know what it's kind of like? Not exactly in the same realm, but it sort of has that feel, is Bo Jackson. Just somebody that you were seeing doing such incredible things, and then whether it was the stress on the body or what, it started breaking down. Keep in mind, DeGoat turns 33 in a couple of days. So, you know, I don't know exactly. I'm going to look it up here on the fly. What Degrom has done. I'm trying to think if the Mets have any playoff action with Jacob Degrom on their roster. Yeah, they were in the playoffs in the 2015. So he has pitched in the playoffs once, but it's kind of like a Mike Trout situation. Not enough playoff games for one of the best players in the game. All right, the other big story is the sticky substance situation. Major League Baseball apparently about to drop the hammer on pitchers who are using sticky stuff on the ball, more than just sunscreen. You can get an automatic 10-game suspension as well as an ejection from that game, all up to the umpire's discretion. Now, a lot of pitchers are upset about this. Carlos Rondon of the White Sox said, how can you suspend a pitcher 10 games when you didn't suspend any of the Astros for cheating? Valid point. Trevor Bauer said the plan is fine long-term, but doing it mid-season when they've said nothing would happen lacks integrity. Here's the thing. Major League Baseball warned pitchers before the season. Whether they started punishing pitchers or not is a moot point. Pitchers were warned. Now there's a crackdown. And it's going to be really interesting to see which fantasy pitchers can adapt and adjust and who gets lit up. As it is, batting averages are already up for the terrible April, and maybe things are evening up. But the amount of venom that Major League Baseball is taking right now, it could just be karma for the fact that they did nothing about the late 80s, whatever, steroids, whatever you want to call them. You know, the gigantism of Barry Bonds' head, the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. They turned a blind eye to that because they needed it for their sport. Maybe this is karma for that. And I don't want to see pitchers getting hurt, but that's what happened. Tyler Glasnow could be out into the playoffs. The Rays starter suffered a UCL injury and will be out a while. He says he hopes to be back for the playoffs, hopes to avoid Tommy John surgery. And he blamed the initial injury partially on Major League Baseball not letting him keep using sticky stuff as he hoped to use it, as he stopped using it rather in his last two starts. Listen, I understand somewhat where the pitchers are coming from about not doing this mid-season, but you weren't supposed to be doing it at all. Like somebody in our Telegram chat said, this is like saying I'm mad because Major League Baseball won't let me keep cheating. I don't know. It's a weak argument to me because they were warned, but I feel bad for Glasnow. I feel bad, basically pitchers were like, well, if I'm not going to get punished, I'm going to keep doing it. It's like a little kid pushing the envelope with their parents, and then finally they get grounded and their PlayStation gets taken away, and they realize how serious it is. It's even worse for GMs who have Glasnow on their roster. If your league allows you to stash a guy long-term on IL and maybe not lose a year of his service, then you're better than most, as he's not going to help your fantasy league at all this year if he's out into the playoffs. Now, when the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball gets going, that situation will be different as we go right until the end of the World Series, following a playoff draft for teams that didn't make it. The teams that make it in get to bolster their roster. Remember like provincials when you were a kid and you'd pick up a guy after you won your league? Same thing, basically what we're doing. So the UFLB, which starts next spring, that situation would be worth watching in that league. In all other leagues, he's basically done for you until next year. You might be able to use him in a deal, though, with the team that's out of it, get something for the stretch drive, and then, give up on, depending on how long you have him signed for. He was having an all-star season, ERA under 270, whip under 1. How about Guerrero the Great? Vlad Guerrero Jr. is the top-ranked fantasy player. When it comes to CBS and Yahoo, at the very least, thanks to his unbelievable first 2.5 months. Top 5 in runs and hits, leads the majors in home runs, RBIs, and OPS. One of only 4 guys have an OPS over 1,000. He's also top 10 in walks. And he's also really fun to watch, too. That's what makes it better. I mean, like your fantasy guys that make you want to tune in are the guys that make you want to draft them because you're going to be watching them all. I don't know about you, but I watch almost all sports until the playoffs. And now when I get into the UFFS, I can watch the playoffs based on my fantasy. So if I had Vlad Guerrero Jr., which I should have, but my league changed the rules the last minute a couple years ago and I couldn't draft him, I would be loving it. He's an absolute stud who is just 22 years old. And there were some concerns about him moving from Dunedin, Florida, where they started their games, to Buffalo, where the Jays have moved their home games to on June 1st. But he has 2 home runs, 5 RBIs in 7 games so far. Some fantasy GMs might be hoping he skips the home run derby at the All-Star game this year. He's the leading vote getter for the game in Colorado, and you're just hoping that, listen, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. If I'm the Toronto Blue Jays or I'm a fantasy owner, I don't want him going in the home run derby. If I'm a fan, I do. But it seems to sometimes tire guys out a little bit, and, there are only so many swings in a season that you do have. So could be interesting to see what happens with Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the All-Star break and just if he can keep up this unbelievable MVP-type season. Like, I think if Jacob Degrom can avoid another injury, he's got to get some consideration for the MVP in the National League. And Vlad Guerrero certainly getting some consideration in the American League. And how about the other Vlad? Vladimir Gutierrez of the Reds has been excellent as a fill-in for some hurting Cincinnati arms. In his 4 starts, he has a pair of quality starts, has yet to give up more than 2 earned runs in a game, and could be making a bid to stay in the rotation. He's on just 46% of rosters in CBS, and the Reds have an explosive offense, so their pitchers, they definitely get run support. So the other Vlad is certainly worth talking about this week. So are some bullpens, and we're looking at the San Francisco Giants bullpen this year as we morph into best of bullpens. Jordan usually handles this, but again, he's out playing in the rain, getting the prospects ready for their season opener tomorrow in Sylvan Lake. And one of the biggest surprises so far in Major League Baseball is the Giants. Leading the best top-heavy division in baseball, the NL West. Can they keep doing it in that division? Well, if their bullpen holds up like it has been doing, as you see on the screen, I don't see why they can't. I mean, this is some pretty impressive stuff from some relievers. You got Conor Menez, 9 innings, 11 Ks. He's picked up a win and a couple of holds, has yet to give up a run, and his whip is .67. Then you got Jake McGee throwing 5 2/3 with 6 Ks, a win, a save, and 3 holds. Also, nada, 0.0 for ERA, as they said in Animal House, and a .35 whip. And Tyler Rogers, 4 Ks through 7 innings, has 3 saves and a hold, a .129 ERA, and a 1.00 whip. And if you don't have holds in your league, you're missing out. It gives relievers so much more value. In one of my Yahoo leagues, I'm riding a ton of relievers, just, 2 or 3 starters, and then looking at, as many relievers that can give me low ERA, low whip, and a hold. Maybe a save. If your holds and saves are in different categories, it really makes the strategy interesting. You got to split it a little bit. If they're in the same category, like it is for one of my leagues, then Bob's your uncle. You're laughing because you pick up a save or a hold, and a hold guy becomes just as valuable as a save guy. So really interesting strategy depending on what your league is. But if you are looking for reliever help, search for one of these 3 guys in your league. Some of them definitely could be available.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
You be cocky and arrogant, even when you're getting beat.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Prediction? Yes, prediction.
And right now, I've got 2 men.
It's serious.
All right, Baseball Thunderdome. This is how it works. 2 players enter, 1 man leaves. Now, usually, this is a question for Jordan. and I give him the pick. But I am asking you, the viewer, to make the pick today. In fantasy, if you could have one of these two guys, who would it be that you're taking? We're going back to 1968 with a pair of MVPs from the mound. This was the year that broke baseball. Who do you got? Baseball Thunderdome. Denny McLain and his 31 wins for Detroit, or Bob Gibson and his record-setting 1.12 ERA for the Cardinals? Both of these guys also, they won the MVP in 1968 for their respective leagues. But they also both finished top 6 and top 4 in MVP voting in another season after this one. So the great thing is you're thinking, well, what does it matter? I can't use Denny McLain or Bob Gibson in fantasy. That's where you're wrong. Remember that Coming to America, the first one? Aha! When the waiter, there's a soup, there's something wrong with my soup. That's where you're wrong, because with the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, we're going to have a Legends League. So Danny McLain and Bob Gibson are going to be in that Legends League as dominant MVPs. You would be able to buy the rights and draft these players. You could either buy their Legends League NFT, or you can draft them in a Fantasy League, Legends League, if you end up purchasing a franchise. And it's going to be simulated. It is going to be just off the charts how good the Legends League is. Like, imagine Bob Gibson facing Babe Ruth. Who wouldn't want to see that? So incredible. So have your say. Hit me up on Twitter at Duck Millard. Let me know. Who would you take in Baseball Thunderdome? Your choices are Bob Gibson or Denny McLain. That is Baseball Thunderdome for today. Hit me up with who you are taking when it comes to a top pitcher. All right, we are back right after this.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
Say hey, Willie Mays Hayes here. Play like Mays, and I run like Hayes.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports.
Well, you may run like Mays, but you hit like shit.
Get in the game where you own the game.
Every time I see you hit one in the air, you owe me 20 push-ups.
Full Count Fantasy Baseball is part of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network, your one-stop fantasy sports shop. We are putting together something amazing, and all fantasy fans are loving it. We've got some pretty cool shows going right now, and the ideas and the shows. We're debuting another one this Saturday, the Ultimate Roundtable. It's going to come your way Saturday afternoon right here on UFSN. And we're going to be partnering with Athletes Owned Sports. You're going to see some terrific stuff coming out of that, coming out of us, some great shows being added. Former athletes are getting involved. It's blowing up, baby. It's blowing up. Reach out if you're interested in being part of the rotation. If you have a daily, a weekly, a monthly show, if it's about fantasy sports, we would love to chat with you. Follow on Twitter at UFF Sports. Follow on Twitter at UFS Network. And get more information at www.uffsports.com and find out how you can own the game. All right, this is what we're talking about for waiver wire wins. I was looking at Jake Fraley. He's an interesting outfielder for the Seattle Mariners. This is just in the last 2 weeks. 10 runs, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, which is nothing to sneeze about. That's really impressive. And an OPS of 1.101. That's just in the last 2 weeks. If you're looking for a quick fix, ride a hot streak while you can. It should be Jake, I'm on a hot streak Fraley. That should be his name. He's owned by just 27% of teams on Yahoo. It is quite incredible, actually, that this guy is on such a heater right now. Pretty impressive stuff. So anyway, Jake Fraley is the waiver wire win that I'm looking at this week as far as a guy who might be able to give you a bit of a pop in the next little bit. Maybe his hit streak runs out. Maybe his playing time runs out. But get on it while you can and get in on Jake Fraley. Now we dive into top 3 in the divisions. This is something that Jordan usually does, but he sent it in. And this is something that I love. I love when he talks about this. I love when we talk about it. Dual positions. Anybody that has, ability to play another position. You look at Max Muncie right now, and might be the year. Like, he's first, second, and third. I don't know if he's going to get enough reps at second and third to qualify there next year. But ride it while you can if you have Max Muncie. This is, we're taking a look at the AL Central in the last 2 weeks and dual position eligibility. So you got Jonathan India. This is a guy I had for a while, and then I dropped. I wrestled with him. He came out of a shot out of the cannon out of the season a little bit, and then he really, really slumped. Starting to pick it up again, and he qualifies at second and third. He's a rookie for Cincinnati. Has 10 runs, 14 hits, a couple of homers, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, and OPS just over 1. And that's just in the last 2 weeks. So he's been up and down, a rookie player, high draft pick, who's starting to produce as of late. And looks like he's going to stay in that Reds lineup. For a while, he was struggling, and they took him out of the lineup. And now it looks like they're giving him another chance. Maybe he just needed a rest. And I was probably a little bit impatient when it came to him and dropping him. Probably a little bit too early. Well, obviously. And I could use, with Max Muncie out right now, I could use a guy, because I have Max Muncie playing third base on my roster because he qualifies for that. So I could use a guy like Jonathan India, and unfortunately he was snagged by somebody else. How about Patrick Wisdom? He plays the corners infield, first and third of the Cubbies. And in the last 2 weeks, he's been pretty awesome as well. 8 runs, 10 hits, 5 long balls. Fortunately, a lot of them were solo shots, as he only has 8 RBIs and an OPS of 1.017. Another rookie who has been on fire over the last 14 days. I like watching the Cubs. I don't know if you saw it the other day. The Cubbies had full capacity, and they had Bill Murray at the game. I like watching the Cubs, and they're in a dogfight right now with Milwaukee, as Alice Cooper said in Wayne's World. The Milwaukee Brewers and the Cubs tied right now for the NL Central. And then there's the Reds that are 2 games back. St. Louis is only 3 games back. What a competitive division. The Pirates round out the bottom at 14.5 games back. And going back to the Cubs now, Jock Peterson is the 3rd guy on this list. Qualifies at first in outfield. Loved him as a Dodger, especially against righties. He rips them against righties. 9 runs, 10 hits, 5 home runs, and 9 RBIs. OPS just under 1,000 at 985. He's not the most consistent guy. I will say that. Jock Peterson does certainly lack consistency. That could be what he doesn't get into a lot of playing time against lefties, but he's on and off. 44% on CBS, just 37% on Yahoo. So if you are looking for a guy with some eligibility at a couple of positions, certainly Jock Peterson would fit that bill.
This is Full Count Fantasy Baseball.
This is a simple game.
Presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports.
You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball.
Get in the game where you own the game.
You got it!
Full Count Fantasy Baseball is presented by our title sponsor, Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Go to the website right now, www.uffsports.com. You can sign up as a scout, and as a scout, you can list and scout and bid on players from every sport, not just baseball, not just hockey. You could be a fan. You can try to buy a team. You can put your name out there that you want to be a GM. Right now we have hockey going. We're in the playoffs because we go right until the end of the season, until the end of the playoffs. So what happens is the regular season happens, then we have a playoff draft, and the playoff franchises get to pluck from all the non-playoff franchises and add to their team. And these aren't just fantasy players. They will be NFTs when Major League Baseball and NHL and NFL, and we already have some signed up, they will become NFTs, be auctioned off, and you can get in the game. So this is on the Zilliqa blockchain. It's the next best thing, combining fantasy sports and the blockchain with NFTs, a scouting program. You will not find anything deeper than this. Our baseball league starts next spring. Auctions in October when the World Series starts. It's going to mimic pretty much everything about Major League Baseball. Same with the American Football League. A 53-man roster. You're going to have offensive linemen. Baseball will have a 40-man protected list. It's pretty much everything about the game that you love, and it feels like you are actually a real GM. Check it out, www.uffsports.com. I tell you, this has changed my life. The football thing is going to be crazy. There are people that are saying they're ready to easily bid 6 figures, maybe 7 figures for a franchise in this situation. So get your group together if you want to get a team, because it is certainly not going to be cheap, but it is going to be high stakes. 6 and 7 figure playoff pools eventually. It's wild. Fantasy sports. Just like people quit their jobs to play poker and video games, you will see people quitting their jobs to be a fantasy GM. Because in this platform, the richest owners, and you're bringing in crypto now, so you got a lot of whales out there, will hire the best people to run their franchises. All right, let's get into Prospect Peak, and this will be important for those in baseball. I'm going with Shane Baz, starting pitcher for the Rays, was recently promoted to AAA in 7 starts at AA. He had an ERA of 2.48, a whip of 0.75, and how about that K to walk ratio, 49-2? Oh, man. He's part of the return from Pittsburgh for Chris Archer. So that, they got Meadows, and trying to think of who the other guy they got in that deal. It was pretty impressive. But Shane Baz is the other part, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see him called up late in the season, getting some bullpen work, and then see if he's ready for next year. I also picked up, and I don't know why he was available in my league, but he was, and I picked up Nate Pearson of the Toronto Blue Jays. I know he's got shelled, but I'm going to stick him in my minors and just ride this guy out. So I don't know why he was available. That's really, really weird, but he was, and I will take it for sure.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
I don't think it taints it.
What you talking about, mister?
You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
All right, in Rule Your League, I'm going to want to tell you something that you can use to make your league better. Or if not, maybe it's just something to kind of live by. So I don't have a rule about your league today, but I have kind of a fantasy rule to live by, and that's always have somebody droppable in case you want to grab a 2-start streamer. If you do that regularly, just keep dropping the guy that you picked up, and most likely the guy isn't going to get 2 terrific starts. That's why he's on the waiver wire. Or if an injury pops up, or a guy you want to stash in the minors. Always have somebody on your roster that you don't care that much about, that you're like, if I drop this guy, it's not going to be the end of the world. So that's my rule to live by. I got to go make some roster moves because of Paz and Pearson that I picked up. I'm over the limit, and games start very shortly. So I have to get my roster sorted out. As for what the weekend watch is, I am going to be checking out the Reds-Padres Saturday night. Vlad Guerrero, who we just talked about, takes the hill. Find out what all the fuss is about live watching this guy. Both of these teams sit third in their really tough division. The Reds are 2 games back. The Friars are 5.5 games back. They haven't been playing all that well as of late. Blake Snell has been awful. He got shelled again. But both of these teams have explosive offenses. Winker versus Tatis Jr. Sign me up for that series starting tomorrow night. The Cards Braves, by the way, is the Sunday night game on ESPN. So that'll be the Sunday night game, Cardinals and Braves going at it. All right, Full Count Fantasy Baseball, as mentioned, is part of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. If you have a show that you think would look great on our network, please send us an email, ufsn@uffsports.com, and check out more shows on the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network. And, of course, this show is brought to you and presented by Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Check out the website, www.uffsports.com, and get in the game where you own the game. One more thing to say, advice from Crash Davis.
You be cocky and arrogant, even when you're getting beat.
And that means it's time for us to wrap things up. Jordan Blundell will hopefully be back with us next week as his season gets underway tomorrow in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. Enjoy the baseball games today as we have the Orioles and Cleveland starting very shortly. One more piece of advice for you and everybody involved in baseball: ban the shift. See you next week, everybody.